beautiful people. Welcome back. I got a very, very special episode for you, especially in light of what's been happening in Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina with the hurricane. Today, my guest runs probably one of, if not the most unique property in at least the East Coast. I'm going to let him tell us a little bit about his story, the property itself. But I think you're going to get a lot of value out of this episode. You're definitely going to be entertained by him. He is very charismatic. And without further ado, let me introduce you to Benjamin from Smithmore Castle. Benjamin, can you tell us who you are and what you're about?
Yes, so firstly, thank you for having me here. I'm Benjamin from Smithmore Castle. I am the in-house chef here, and I run the entire estate. So a bit about the castle. Well, actually, before I do that, the host has been so generous and kind enough that when he frequented the castle not too long ago, he did gift me a rather interesting book. And I do want to tell you that I've been reading it every now and again, and it's quite good. So it's up to you if you want to plug in the book or not, but it was a rather good gift, and so I leave that to your good graces. However, so about the property. So Smithmore Castle is indeed America's only 5-star castle hotel. It is not an inn. We are not a bed and breakfast. This is sort of a glimpse in time of this British Victorian era. I guess for most Americans, I would say it's a walk down and a peek through the show Downton Abbey. I don't know if your viewers would be familiar. So it's a way that is a working estate is run properly with valets and chefs and nannies and governesses. My wife and I and our child do reside on the property. The Lord and Lady do live here as well sometime. And then when they are not here, this is when it's rented. And it's a staffed hotel. But it's also a place where you can do rather unique things, such as take etiquette classes. My wife teaches all three, which would be your familial, your social, and your formal dining etiquette. So parents from all over the world, for example, will pay us lots of money, and then they bring us their children, and we sort of reprogram them here in a proper way. So then we also have archery lessons. There's massages on the property as well. There's tea times daily, and no, I don't mean golf. I mean actual tea. There's coffee tasting. We've added honey tasting as we've got an apiary, and a plethora of other things that are more for an experience. This is all by reservation only. Don't just show up. You will not be let in. The gate is closed, and so it's a rather, again, just a unique experience altogether. The staff is trained in the continental or European standard of etiquette and service. And it's so, again, it is not like you could think of your highest rated American restaurant, and it's not that. It's leaps and bounds above and beyond that, because of the culture that we provide. We provide mentorship as well as training. When you work here, you become a part of our family, and you are brought into the fold of how we do things and how to arrange your life in a proper manner. And we don't veer away from it at all. Most of us here are Catholic, and we do lead with our faith, and we are not shy about it at all. And this is again a bit of a different thing for most Americans, especially nowadays. You come in, remember, you are coming into our home. So this is not a thing where things are going to be mainstream or commercial. They're very much private, and you're coming in. Most bookings are here for 2 or 3 nights, but you can also come and dine here, which is what the lovely host has done not too long ago. It's called the dining experience. But so yeah, I want to stop right there, and I don't know if I've answered your question or not. I got on.
No, and I love it. I love it. By all means, man, don't feel like you have to stop or limit yourself. I just love hearing you, and especially expressing your unique, not only location there, but your unique position. I've been in the travel industry for a long time, and again, this is the first. I mean, your place is the first place I've been to that offers an experience that really takes you back in time, and I like that. And yes, I'm going to plug the book because the people that subscribe and watch this channel have heard me plug this book before, which is Unreasonable Hospitality. It's a phenomenal book. I highly recommend it. And I'm glad you are enjoying it, because when I went to Smithmore Castle, immediately that book came to mind, because you provide what I refer to as unreasonable hospitality. It is a phenomenal experience, something that I highly, highly recommend. And when the hurricane came and I saw that it affected you guys, this is why I reached out and I say, I need to have you guys on here, because through the process, I was following you guys on Instagram, and I know the magnitude of work that is going to take to get you guys back up and running. And when I saw that you guys are going to be opening your doors again in November, I'm like, I got to get Benjamin on, because I need to hear the story. I want my viewers to hear the story. So can you describe first of all, let's begin with describing the extent of damages that the hurricane caused to your property.
Sure. So I should first start off by saying, on that sort of solemn week, my parents decided it would be a jolly good idea to visit Spruce Pine to see not only my son, whom they've only seen once before, but also to see the town in its glory during autumn. So imagine now being here and having your parents, who I've only get the opportunity to see once or twice a year. So I do go all out, as they say. So they've, I think they landed in the airport. The name escapes me now, but in Knoxville. So we stayed there for a day or two and then made our way here. And on that night, in the morning, we've got different rooms in different locations, but this room was the kids' room. And we strategically placed the kids' room beneath grade, so underground, more or less, because, well, it's a kids' room and they're loud. So I was there with my son. And in the morning, I get a call from my mother who says, there's a storm about, and might you take a look? And I had nothing, because I was underground. I was thinking, there's nothing there. Go to sleep. You're just panicking. You're from California. You're be made of sterner stuff, woman. But then she called me again, and she thought, "Are you sure? Because it's different." And then the bedroom door, my wife then said, "Hey, the bedroom door is shaking." Actually, no, I take it back. Before she said that, she said, "The front door is shaking." And I said, "The front door to the castle? The thing is like 1,000 pounds. It's not shaking, surely." And so so she gets out and goes up to the knight's hall, where she found, a pond, a giant puddle of water in a fairly large room, in a 1,200 square foot room. And so she comes downstairs and says, "There's water there." And I go, "Oh, bloody hell." So I make my way up, out of the underground room, the kids' room, and go to the foyer. And I look out and I thought, well, that's not good. I was looking at the trees, and it was, I will never forget it. It was such a rather peculiar thing, because the trees that were 2 or 3 feet in circumference, or the diameter, I should say, were almost 40-degree or 50-degree turned. And I thought, that's odd. So I go down, this is a 4-story castle. So I go to the second floor where I could get a better look. And then through the courtyard, I saw, this was a place where we do weddings and so on. So I saw literally halves of trees, large, big trees in the courtyard, and furniture being thrown about. And I thought, well, this is definitely not good. Make my way up to the 3rd floor, where you get sort of the grand view of things. You could view the Eastern Continental Divide from this floor. You could view Mount Mitchell from this floor. You could view the Blue Ridge Parkway from this view. We've got in my opinion, one of the most unperverted views in all of the world. It's so, the view is so brilliant that I saw, you could see the tops of trees, and I looked out sort of gobsmacked at the rhythm and harmony of which the trees were all swaying back and forth in different, now we found out that in different isolated tornadoes, but they were moving in such a way, although this might sound a bit odd to say, beautifully, but also in the most biblical yet apocalyptic way. They were moving in such, this is my fourth sort of, autumn and winter here. So I've seen it, not like this, of course. And so it gave me pause, to say the least. The way that they were moving was, I don't care who you are, you would be scared. So I make my way to my parents' room, but I had to save face. I remember going in there and thinking, oh yes, this is quite fine. But in my mind, I was thinking, it's jolly well, it's not fine. This is where the windows come out. And then we could hear the trees cracking. Now we are well over 100 acres. In fact, we are nearly getting close to 200 acres. So the amount of trees that were snapping and the noise that they make, it reminds me, it was a war zone. And having lived through a war when I was born in the Middle East and lived there, the sounds were uncanny. And then the trees were falling in all sorts of different ways that were quite unique for the area. Some were just being pushed over, and the giant roots, some 6, 8, and 10 feet in diameter, were laid there to where we could see. Some being snapped straight in half, some electric poles being snapped straight in half, and some trees falling on the lines and bringing them down. And it's sort of a domino effect. But and so then you've got that. And of course, you've had the rain that was literally sideways. So the castle started leaking in places where you're thinking, how are you even leaking from this area? How did the water even get in? So then we've got that. We've managed to get the entire family, because I had to walk a fine line of not frightening my parents. But still taking charge is, here I am welcoming my family into my home, but I need to protect them at all cost. So my son and my wife were downstairs in a room beneath grade. And I took my mother there, and my father, who was thinking, well, you're surely not scared, so why should I be scared? And I'm thinking, should I just tell this man? I am scared, and let's just get a move on. So anyway, I finally got him to go down there, and now the power went out and the telephones all went out. So just a bit about the estate itself again. Some staff can and does reside on the property as well. There are other rooms outside of just the building of the actual castle where they could reside. That night, one particular staff member, Mr. Bradford, who is our head footman, was down sort of a quarter mile down. But where he's staying, it's where the vineyard is, and there's a building there that's got 2 bedrooms. And the number of trees surrounding that building in comparison to the castle is substantial. You can't even compare. I mean, that thing is quite literally in the forest. And so he has no running water at this point, and he's got no electricity. And I was thinking, I don't even know if he's got food, because he works on coming up to the main house for food. It's sort of a place to crash, unless he's staying there for a week or 2 at a time. Anyway, so I tried to make my way out of there, and I opened the door, and the winds were nearly 145 miles an hour. These aren't my words. These were the words of the locals who posted about them online. So just imagine 145 miles an hour, okay? We are nearly 4,000 feet up. Spruce Pine as a town is 2,000 feet up, more or less, and we are 4,000 feet up. So I opened the door, and I thought, either I'm going to get bashed by a tree, and the property at this point was completely wrecked. And I was like, how am I going to get to this fellow who's down there surrounded and possibly scared. He's got no internet and no telephone and no electricity, and trees are falling about. So I thought, we had the side by side, and I was thinking, do I take my car? Anyway, I take the side by side.
Now, let me interrupt you. This is during the storm?
Yes, because because I had to go rescue my fellow man.
Yeah.
I know if anything were to happen, this would not be a scratch, because I stayed in that building when we first moved here for about a year. So I know exactly the obstacles that he faces and the challenges there. I mean, it's quite literally, there's a giant tree every 5 feet planted around you.
Yeah. I remember. I think you showed me that place.
Yes, and they're old. I mean, and these are not small trees. So anyway, I tried to go, and then I looked down in the road, and I thought, there's no possible way I could get anything there. I have to go by foot. So then I'm thinking, I'm not dressed for it, because I was in my pajamas, and I just put on a bathrobe, and I went down to try to rescue my friend. And so I couldn't make it in that. So I came up, and I wanted to get properly dressed, windbreakers and so on. And then I was thinking, what do I bring to this thing? We've got plenty of guns. Is that what I need? No, you can't fight a storm with guns. What do I need? Flashlights? I'm like, what for? I didn't, what do you even bring? So then I was like, umbrella, it's raining, but I was like, the wind is 145. I don't know what to bring. I was like, oh, bugger it. Let me just go. You just go out there. I put a scarf around my face, and I went down. The old soul in me, I had an AR-15 behind me. I don't know why. I don't know who I was going to attack. I make a turn, and I see him, and he had walked up, and it took him 45 minutes. And let me tell you, normally that's a 12-minute walk. It took him 45 minutes to walk, and he was all, it's wet and obviously shaken by it all. And I was thinking, oh my God. And I was like, the first thing I go, where's Zoltan? We've got a big German Shepherd. And he's like, oh, where's Zoltan? I go, we have to go back and get him. So we waited about 30 minutes for the storm to subside a bit. And we made our way down there, where I got a firsthand look and experience. So imagine, this was like, it's like a movie, because we have to crawl down beneath some trees, and then climb some trees, and go down some trees, and move some trees, and change. And then a 12-minute walk turned out to be, again, another 45-minute walk. And now we're actually struggling. We're crawling like army crawl. We're trying to get to my dog, and then we get there, and I can't make this up. I've got a photo. He's got a doghouse and a run, and the largest tree on the property smashes his run. This thing was like 4 feet in diameter.
Wow.
Completely wrecks his whole run. He survives, and he's out there like, where the bloody hell is everybody? And he's a force to be reckoned with, 140 plus pound German Shepherd. And he's like, yes, I don't want to be here. So we got him, and on the way back, we heard another tree fall, and it was near the chicken coop, which is sort of cleverly called the Royal Cluckery. And I thought, we just built that thing a year ago, and I thought, oh, damn, is that thing crushed? And then we're looking up to see if we're going to get crushed on our way. But we go there, and then the run is half crushed. And then all the chickens are about, and they're like, they're all scared and going everywhere. And I thought, and the survival in me was thinking, because straight away I thought, thank goodness we've got chickens to eat. One egg is roughly 6 to 8 grams of protein. I was thinking how many we had and we were going to produce. But there was a hole in they created a massive crater in the run, and they all managed to get out. And I thought, well, it's a dice roll at this point if they're going to go back. But we are literally in a forest, so they would be eaten. And sure enough, we lost 90% of our flock.
Wow.
But, so I went back later and managed to get some of them in, and I locked the door so they wouldn't go in the run, because I knew we needed food. Now we are preppers here, and so I typically keep food for 1 month or 2 months at a time. and getting into what foods we keep. I could share all that information, but I had now more mouths to feed. I typically keep that kind of food for my wife and I, and now our newborn. So now I had my mother, my father, Mr. Bradford to feed, and so anyway, it was quite something. We were trapped. Our drive is roughly 1 mile long, and so we were trapped. One of our handymen who lives down the street sort of managed to come up a few hours later during the evening, and we devised a plan to chainsaw some of the drive so we can get our vehicles out. Now we are on well water, but it's a bit complicated how we do our well water here. We're also on city water. We store city water. We use that first, and then if needed, we go to our well. We just so happened 1 hour before to load up on city water, 1,200 gallons or so. So we've had 1,200 gallons, drinkable and showerable and so on. But getting to our generators and getting it all wired up took some time because we had to make certain adjustments. But then we finally managed to get out 2 days later. But we are so utterly fortunate. What can I say? We were trapped in a castle, America's only 5-star castle hotel. This is like being stranded on the side of the road in a brand new Rolls Royce. Others had it way worse and still do, and I completely sympathize. And we are helping the local community in any way, shape, or form possible, either through donations, which we've made, offering showers, water, food, internet. We've got Starlink. That's what I'm using now. AT&T. I don't know why they're dragging their feet. It's been it's been a minute. So they need to get a hop on.
No, it's Starlink. First of all, I got a lot of questions to ask, but just to touch on really quick on Starlink, I've been a fan of Starlink for a while. It's what I use in this particular property as well, and so I'm from Miami. We're used to hurricanes. I've been through tons of, I don't want to say tons, but I've been through, just off the top of my head, at least 5 major hurricanes. So we're kind of used to it. You guys definitely are not used to it. So walk me back through the process, through your process, again, when your mother called you and told you, hey, I think there's a storm. I know because you guys are not used to it. You weren't thinking of anything of it. But when you actually saw, oh my God, this is crazy. Walk me through that process again in terms of some of the steps that you were thinking in your head. Hey, we need to do X, Y, and Z.
Well, I think me in particular, I treated this as though it was a war zone. What would we do in a war? The first thing in my mind right away, I thought, where are the flashlights? Anything that we have that's solar powered, and water. So that was the very first thing. I wasn't really too concerned that the castle would collapse. This is a block building. I didn't. It's not wood. So I was fairly certain it would survive and stay intact. I guess the process for me was first and foremost protecting my family, who was here on holiday, who was trying to they were trying to have a jolly good time seeing the town, and then they were presented with this out of left field. And of course, as you said, that not only I'm not used to it either, but none of the locals here were used to it. I mean, flooding and Category 4, and high winds, and certain creeks. We've, just to touch on this, we've got close to 5 streams on the property. And some of the streams are fairly small, like 10 inches. Some of them, the one of the larger ones is like a foot or 2 foot. It's now a river. I don't, what does that make our property now? A riverfront?
Yeah.
And so everything that you knew conceptually about your territory sort of went out the window, and you had to learn rather quickly and make the adjustments. So straight away, I thought about getting it's basically the power converter getting a power converter to try to pump out water for drinking, I knew right away that we had at least one flush in all of the lavatories. So those are the things. And then I promptly went to the shed where we have food. Now, obviously, in the refrigerators, I knew we've had about 6 to 8 hours to eat the perishables. But all of this time, I'm thinking I want to get the generators up, but I don't want to leave my family. So there had to be like a day or two of, I know we've got generators, but I need to go and gas them up and hook them up and do all sorts of things. Or do I get to the perishables first, feed the family, make things comfortable, arrange the lighting in such a way where it works? If anybody wanted to shower right away, I've got a newborn, so he's having his diapers changed every hour. Where are the wipes? Where's his food? Where's his parents? I make all his food. It's not like he's eating, store-bought food. This is a child who's never eaten a store-bought egg. So now I needed to make all that. Good thing, obviously, the kitchen is commercial, and so we've got propane. It's not electric. So, and I thought about what I needed to do, and so all of the fireplaces in the castle have been retrofitted to be propane. But I needed to now reserve the propane for other more emergency uses. And so I brought logs in and placed them on top of all inside the fireplaces that are propane naturally. And we decided to use those. I didn't know how long this was going to last. How do you know if it's 1 day or 1 year? I don't know. I don't know what the devastation is beyond my territory, beyond our fiefdom here. So, but I could tell you it was odious. So that was the plan. I thought about treating this as a war. I didn't know what was going on. You also don't know about now this sounds completely paranoid, but that's the person that I am. And there's another book for you. I think it's, I can't remember the name precisely. I did read it once. I think it's called Only the Paranoid Survive or Only the Paranoid Succeed. I can't remember. It's one of those things. But so the paranoid person in me thought, now, where is this happening? Is this happening just in this area down to Florida? Because I knew the storm was coming in from the Gulf. Does it start from Africa? Is this like half of the United States that has been affected? And then I thought, what a way to take advantage of this place. I don't know, both from a military standpoint, from a foreign country standpoint, to internal standpoint. Then this was an election season. All right, is it a storm and then also an EMP bomb? Is it a storm and also somebody messed with the water supply? Like all of these things, because we live in trying times, and you can't trust anything that you see or hear. And so I was thinking about all of those things. So that further paranoia, in addition to the natural disaster, added a sense of I don't know. Everything seemed so ghoulish. And you couldn't trust anyone or anything. And then I know enough to know that if you don't have power for 3, 4, 5 days, it will literally create such an enormous amount of chaos and destruction, which will then in turn bring out violence and all the sort. If people can't heat their homes or have shelter or have food, I would say that in less than a week, people will turn to their animalistic side, unfortunately.
Yeah, let's backtrack a little bit. Do you guys currently have, or did you guys have a which I doubt you did because it's so uncommon, a policy related to a natural disaster like this that you can implement for not only yourself but your staff, more importantly?
And we do, but it's more for like snowstorms, because so for example, we do weddings here. And so most of the wedding bookings are Friday check-in, Saturday wedding, Sunday checkout. Well, if there's a storm that happens, or just if you get 3, 4, 5 inches of snow, then the sort of the protocol is the staff can stay here, they're housed here, they can shower here, eat here, and do whatever, call their family through our Starlink phones in case they don't have any, and so on. So we do have a bit of a policy on that. Clearly, the policy has been now vastly expanded to where I could tell you one thing, and I don't want to, I'm going too far here, but I want to just plant the seed. This is never happening to me again. It's never happening to me again. I mean, we are so prepared. And now, of course, if there's a typhoon now, you're throwing me a curveball. I don't know what to deal with that. But if there's any kind of storm, I'm sort of this, champion on the hill, yelling, "Bring it on!" But obviously, I'm saying it all tongue in cheek. But yes, we do have a policy, but obviously nowhere near this. But now everything's just been so expanded upon. We now keep food up to 6 months at a time because I don't know how many people I need to feed. The thing I was thinking was, imagine we had a full house.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Oh, no, so here, look how lucky we've got. Whenever my family, so this is a sort of a bizarre business I'm in. Unlike most people, whenever they want to go on holiday or go somewhere, they request days off, or they manage it in such a way where the manager and then staff will handle their affairs. Here, my wife and I play such a pivotal role that we simply, as well trained and well equipped and as brilliant as our staff is, they cannot manage the estate without us. So we block days. And so when my family comes to visit, we will block a week. There's nothing going on. Maybe staff is here to clean up. That's what Mr. Bradford was doing. He was, in fact, playing the footman here while my parents were here, bringing their luggage up, making sure that they are comfortable, putting a fire on, and so on. He just so happened to be here. So we did not have any other staff here because we were only planning to stay. So to get this, we were only planning to stay for 2 days here and then going off to the Montage in Palmetto Bluff, South Carolina. For 2 days, but they were closed as well. Oh, I don't know if they actually closed. I think it sort of passed them, but they had emailed us and said, "Here you go. There's a refund. So we've got a storm coming, and with okay, well, whatever. Thanks. We've got our own problems. Okay, not going there. So that's why we didn't have full staff here. But imagine if my parents weren't here and we were entertaining. There was a wedding, and we typically, 15, 20, 25 people here plus staff, 80 people. Like, you just never know. What was I to do? How do I get 80 people out of here? How do I feed 80 people? How do I, provide showers for 80 people? How can I provide lavatories for 80 people? How do I?
Yeah. Once again, I'm very religious. I believe God always has a path for us. And it was a blessing that your parents were coming, because you were able to block that off, and nothing, you didn't have to deal with that. Although you still have to deal with a lot, protecting your family, dealing with the storm, but compounding that with having guests and more staff, it would have been insane. And here's an interesting note. During the storm, again, the storm came through Florida first. And I have close friends in your area. So I was communicating back and forth with them. And then as it was passing through Florida, I wrote to them saying, "Hey, we're fine." And they were like, "Hey, we're getting a lot of wind, a lot of rain." And here's my ignorance, because again, it usually doesn't happen in your area. I'm like, "You guys are in the mountains, you'll be fine. The flooding's going to happen further down, closer to Asheville." Boy, was I wrong. Was I wrong. And I get a call from Corey Prince. He owns a short-term rental property management company out of Asheville, and he has properties that he manages around Spruce Pine in that area. I get a call from him about, I think it was around 11:30 at night, and he tells me, "Matt, this is getting really, really ugly." Again, unbeknownst to me and unbeknownst to the world, it got more than ugly. So like I said, my heart goes out to you guys, because I know it had to be something wild, because this really, really was unexpected, and the amount of water that you guys got. Because again, for those that are not familiar with hurricanes, the winds usually are a factor, but the most dangerous part is the water. And all you have to do is look at the news and see how roads were washed away. It's just crazy how much water you guys got. Now, you guys being so high up, the flooding wasn't as bad for you guys up there because you are up, but like you said, you now have waterfront property, and it's crazy.
Yeah. I would say this too, although yes, we did not have the flooding, as you mentioned, so a bit touching back as to if there were guests here and in the time that the storm was happening. If you recall, during the initial introduction, I had mentioned all of the activities, and in addition to the amenities that we provide, in some of the more rather popular activities are the cave tours and the archery. Now, it is an absolute miracle that, yes, of course, no one was here, but had they been here, the times that the storm was going on is literally the time window of when people go hiking. I must tell you, they would not have survived.
Wow.
Because you can't get to our caves now. The amount of tree fall, and devastation, and the landslides too. I mean, although we didn't get the amount of water that the lower lands got, such as Asheville and Mars Hill and Marion and those places, the being high up, whenever you've got a bit of a landslide, because of the inertia and the mass and the sheer volume of the tree fall and the weight of it, it takes things down even further. So we've got 4 landslides on the property that we are working on as we speak. The main drive, the valet road, and sort of behind the self-parking. But there's a lot of landslides that are in the trails of the caves. So it's all by the grace of God that we were spared this rather odious experience. I have to say, I would again, this is all another miracle, and I don't mind giving him a plug. He's a rather good neighbor. There was a Mexican fellow by the name of Israel who lives a bit walking distance past our property, sort of about 2 miles down. And he owns a construction company, and I knew that he had heavy machinery. And at that moment, the capitalist in me thought, I need to get a hold of that guy. But I'm sure others are trying to reach him. But alas, there is no cell service.
I was going to ask you that, yeah.
I get on the Polaris and I drive as far as I could, and then I had to book it on foot. And I show up to his home, and he's outside sort of assessing his situation. And I thought, oh, my dear chap, whatever it cost, do come up, bring all your heavy equipment. And I was like, I don't know if you can get your crewmen out. And he had, in the heart of gold on this fellow, he was already starting to clean just the main road getting up to the castle, Gugis. This is a person who's got, I don't know, 10 chainsaws, an excavator, a backhoe, tractors, and dump truck. And he's got it all. And then I was thinking, golly, does he have enough petrol? And so I asked him, and he goes, I'll come up first thing tomorrow, because by this time it was afternoon. So most of his things were diesel. So I have this military grade generator, and it takes diesel. So now the $1 million question: do I pillage the generator so that he could siphon all of the diesel out and essentially rescue us at the risk of us going off of the smaller generators that we've had, because this other one is a giant military grade generator that could power up the whole castle. So I went ahead and made the decision, yes, siphon it all out and get us going, because at this moment I thought, it's not fair that my parents need to be subjected to this. I need to get them out of here, and managed to get a flight arranged, getting a flight arranged for them took like 3 or 4 days, which was, you just think about it for the listeners. You can go online right now and get a flight in 20 minutes or less. So this took 3 or 4 days. We had to go and because so now the Starlink wasn't working because I couldn't power it up, because I needed the small generators to power up the refrigerators. So I had to, and every time I wanted to make a call, I had to go unplug. I mean, it was a feat in itself. Anyway, I managed to do that, and now how do I get them? Asheville Airport is is done for. Do I go to Charlotte? We didn't know the road from, it's 2 hours away. Asheville is 1 hour from here. Charlotte is 2. I didn't know the way there. There was a scene I want to bring your audience to imagine. So there was a place that this whole county went to go make phone calls. And it was past the Walmart, a bit more as you started to make your way towards Little Switzerland. The scene looked like it was something out of The Walking Dead. Imagine 1,000 people or more, beat up by the storm, scared and cold and checking in on their loved ones, only to be met with the most spotty of signals, trying so desperately to reach their family, to tell them how they are doing, to check in on them, to arrange for fuel or food. So, I'm there, and I don't know how I learned of that there was service there. Somebody had told me, word gets around. Made our way there and ran into all sorts of members of our community whom we know and love. Everyone from the local baker to butcher to the general store manager to the restaurateurs to neighbors to even members who were guests at our castle at one point. I have to say, I was as solemn as a church. It wasn't a sight I want to see again. The conversations were on the spectrum of people were certainly weeping on the phone, and people were laughing on the phone when they found out that all was well, and then others who received the most unfortunate news. But anyway, we used to go there to make calls, and I think people did that for the better part of a week to 10 days. And it wasn't like the service was good, and then somebody would say, "Oh, the community center in Burnsville's got service, and you need to get on the Wi-Fi. And I know the person who runs it, so here's the Wi-Fi password for Wi-Fi calling." I mean, this was the level of desperation that we had to go through. So it wasn't it wasn't a glorious time by any means. Well, anyway, I couldn't bear the thought of keeping my mom and dad here a minute longer than they needed to be. They didn't sign up for this. I'm leaving out so many personal little hiccups, like how I had this rental car because we were in Knoxville, and I took in my S-Class to get serviced, and I got a rental car. And as you know, you can't take a rental car over state lines. So I have them thinking like I stolen the car, and I'm like, oh, not now. I don't want to go there and wring your neck now. I didn't steal your bloody car. I can't get to you. So anyway, so no. Here's the best part. Are you ready? I get a rental car. So they tell me, and if you go to a dealer, they want to, pry you off on, sort of the introductory cars. Well, if I'm going to turn in, I had more people. Basically, I was trying to get a larger vehicle because I had more people. I don't know the model of this Mercedes. People can look it up, but it's completely electric. So,
Whoa.
Yeah. This has been a complete. So I'm now the stupidest person on earth because I wanted to get an electric vehicle the day before the storm because I wanted to go and zip around in it, and why not? It's an electric vehicle, and it's a 400-mile whatever charge, and I have a stroller, food, my parents' luggage, my luggage, my wife, and car seats. So I'm like, I need a big SUV. Anyway, I got that, and boy, was that the stupidest decision because obviously. If there's one thing everybody wanted here was electricity. I think they wanted it more than drinking water. Yes. Anyway, so now I'm thinking, are they going to arrest me because I've stolen a car, essentially? And it's because it was in Tennessee. I crossed state lines, but I don't have now enough charge to get back. Yeah. How am I going to charge this car? So the viewer might think, a generator. All right. I'm not stupid. I plugged it in. Ask me how long it told me for it to charge.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
6 bloody days. It
Yes.
said 6 days. And then so I go, because, I've got 110 and the generator couldn't do the 220 that you need to charge a vehicle.
Yep.
It was. So anyway, another person that we know here goes by the name of Ron, and he's a handyman / builder, but moreover, he's a bit of a genius. He's the one who built the royal clockery on the property and is continuously building things here. But anyway, he ends up, we get a hold of him, and he MacGyvers. Everyone understands this reference, right?
Yes.
He MacGyvers a way to make it work, and the wires are sticking up, and he's like, I've got to charge. I'm like, okay. And he's got the Wi-Fi to work, and it's like a piece of wire being held together by a pen, and then there's chewing gum, and then there's a Christmas tree holding up a telephone and a light bulb, and I'm like, okay, fine. He rigged this contraption together. Managed to get them out. I do want to share another. I don't know. Do you have any questions, or can I share this?
No. Keep going. Share the stories. I got questions, but share the stories.
All right. So my family, we've got a large, loving family who we converse on a daily basis, 100 times a day in a group chat. I'm sure you've got the same. I've got 2 of them, one on my wife's side and one on my side. So on my wife's side, they had no idea this was going on because they weren't here visiting. And, they're all the way in wine country, California. So they were not, you hear about these things, but it's like, oh, all right, I care about you 30th on my list at the moment. And they weren't putting 2 and 2 together, because every winter when they ask, how is the storm? We thought, we're outside, it's beautiful, we're here. And it sort of doesn't go through Western North Carolina anyway. But my family knew that my parents were there, and we're all very close. So they're trying to text, call, email, send letter by Raven and all sorts of things, and they couldn't get to us. So, but they've had internet. So, they've got all of these Facebook groups, like, I don't know what they're called. Let's Talk Spruce Pine Uncensored and Burnsville Hub and Let's Talk Burnsville. I don't know, all these things. So now my family, again, they had the means too. So they are calling in private helicopter companies to try to charter us out of here by airlift. They're chartering in, like bulletproof ex-military companies that like Blackwater, like trying to get to do an emergency rescue. No, I mean, they've contacted everyone and anyone. And one of them went as far as, and I find this to be quite amusing now, but in those Let's Talk whatever Spruce Pine pages or something, one of my sisters, what a darling, she wrote, could somebody please check on my family who is stranded in Smithmore Castle? I've got an elderly father and a newborn. And so now just remember for a minute. So you might think, well, what's wrong with that? But I could just think about a reader reading that comment and thinking, oh, shut up. They're stranded in a castle. Meanwhile, people's homes are being, flooded and completely destroyed. So now I screenshotted that. Now we can make light of things, and because that's how you have to trek on. Otherwise, there's no sense in being gloomy about it. But I took a screenshot of it. Her comment had no likes and no comments. But everybody else, when they were asking to check for their grandparents or their family, everyone was like, yeah, of course, sure thing. Yes, of course I will check. No one was checking, and it just sort of, it took me back to, I don't know. It's all good. It's all good and fun now. But when we made our way out of here, the sheer destruction and the sight that we saw going from Spruce Pine, Bakersville area, Beulah Dean area, then making our way to Johnson City, Knoxville. That was a war zone. There's no other way to put it. The sheer destruction.
Now, were the because obviously everything was blown away. how were the roads? Because I know there were many roads that got washed away.
So, yeah, the roads were unrecognizable. I mean, we were taking back roads. We were taking the back roads of the back roads. I was off-roading at one point. I mean, and also normally there is no cell service over there. So now you've got where is normally no cell service, obviously no cell service. You've got the detours and everything else in your way. It was a complete war zone. The amount of debris that we saw homes and sheds in the road, vehicles on top of the guardrail, flips upside down on top of guardrails, some that were floated. You can't describe these things. It was like, it was like CGI. And then you saw state troopers and sheriffs and law enforcement detouring you every which way. So sometimes you drive 10 miles where typically a quarter mile would have done to get to your destination. So, getting from here to Johnson City is an hour and 20 minutes, more or less normally. This was like a 3-hour journey getting there. And then you drive somewhere just to be sent back. And then it's not like, and then you have to, you're constantly doing the math. Do I have enough petrol? In my case, is there enough charge in this stupid thing? And so now I am completely against electric cars. I'm sorry, Elon Musk. I'm terribly sorry. I've lived it. No, not practical at all. They're practical if all things considered are going well. But anyway.
That's a good point. I have said that for a long time now. When everything is hunky-dory, we don't have any hurricanes, electric cars are good. But when we don't, there's nothing more reliable than that gas guzzler that a lot of people are complaining about. But we truly need it. And another prime example, and I tell people this all the time as well, we're so dependent on our devices, particularly our phone. And how long were you guys out of cell service?
Enough to where we got used to it, oddly.
Wow.
You know what we started doing? And you're going to think this would be a bit strange, I think. We started as a family sitting there, and we whipped out calligraphy pens and some parchment, and we started thinking about, because you're sitting in the dark most of the time, and you have all this, it's so quiet, you can hear your heartbeat, and we're thinking we should re-up on our cursive. We're like, what? We're like, yes, let's all sit as a family under candlelight and write cursive. Now, again, I know for some of people listening, they thought, well, at least you had a place to sit and shelter in and a roof above your head to sit and do that. But yeah, I can't control these things. I had to make do what we had. And so we started doing that. We were without cell service for the better part of a week, but we could end up, going to those places and getting shoddy service and setting up Starlink, which if I needed to make a call, it would take me like an hour because I have to go and move things to just plug in Starlink. So
did you guys have Starlink before this, or you got it after? You had it before.
We've had it before. Being preppers, we've had it before. It works tremendously well. It works better than anything out here. So although I just spoke ill of Tesla, I want to speak highly of the Starlink. So I guess it's the same pocket in the end. But no. So we sort of had to make do with it all. What was more interesting was my father had a different company, my mother had a different company, I have a company with my wife, and Mr. Bradford had a different company. And the rather unforgiving part about this whole thing, and my main quarrel that I have, is with the cell phone companies. There is no a good answer that I've heard as to why they were all down. I've heard things like, well, they share one tower. Well, I'm sorry, but how stupid is that? If you are Verizon and I'm AT&T, it's all jolly well that we could share a tower, but wouldn't I, being in business, have a tower that blankets over the tower in case that when power goes out here all the time in this area. because they've got electric poles. They don't have lines buried. So power goes out. Wouldn't you, being if you're my competitor, have a backup plan for your backup plan? And the fact that none of them did, that was rather peculiar. I don't know if I'm fully convinced that portion was natural.
No, I mean, I'm never convinced of that either, especially today in today's day and age. And you're right. As to if I have a cell phone company, now backtracking a little bit to their defense, a lot of these smaller cell phone companies, like for example, my neighbor, he's a retired CEO for T-Mobile, and they actually rent tower space because it becomes finding locations to put antennas becomes very difficult, and because of regulation. Anyways, let's not go down that road, because that we can really spend a lot of time talking about that.
That's
because there is, it's a separate podcast, because I firmly believe that we with all the advances that we have and all the resources that we have in the U.S., we have become very reliant and dependent on other entities that we shouldn't be. But going back to you guys, the storm passes now. You've assessed the situation. Walk us through your process with your team in terms of, what were your priorities in rebuilding and starting to get everything back in order?
Yes, so this takes us to the sort of final epilogue. And it mainly at that, and on this property in particular, there's quite a few things that could be done by man as opposed to heavy machinery. And that was the challenge that we had, because when I rang the Lord of the castle and told him of the destruction and submitted all the photos. Oh, anyway, the photos weren't getting to him. Right. So he was thinking, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got to send you photos." Anyway, when they finally started trickling to him, and for him getting from Florida to here, he had to charter a private plane and landing in a private airport. That's a separate conversation. But formulating a plan also revolved around getting his brilliance and his pragmatic mind over here to help assist in the recovery and rebuilding. Sadly, the most of our staff had to go tend to their own issues and their own problems at home, which we were glad that they can go and do, but again, most of the things that we needed to be done on the property required heavy machinery. It wasn't so much go blow some leaves. We had some windows that were that blew out and things, but the Lord of the castle is one of the most handiest of men, and he came on 3 or 4 or 5 days later, and we devised a plan to tackle it on, and with excavators and tractors and things, using our neighbor, using the handymen that we had working on the property, chainsawing. We were all chainsawing. I learned how to chainsaw. I'm learning all of these new trades and crafts that I never needed to know before. But no matter how, if you brought me 20 men right now with chainsaws, I would tell you to bring me 20 more. There's just so much. There's so much to do. And so the plan was devised first and foremost was to clear the driveways. Make it drivable, because we also needed to make it drivable for the energy company to make their way up, for the sheriffs to make their way up, for FEMA and whoever else that needed to come and check on the property. By this time, the military was here. Everyone was here. The Army Corps of Engineers, the military, maybe perhaps the Red Cross, and so on. So the plan was to do the road first and foremost. But you had to be careful, because you didn't know what wires were live. So when you were moving things about, there is low voltage and high voltage wires everywhere. And we were not the wiser as to which one we were to move. We wanted to stay away. Transformers were all over the place. Propane tanks in this area that are installed above ground. ours were just missed by some trees, thankfully, but our main one is buried, so we were quite fortunate there. So the plan was to get the roads. Secondly, the plan was to get um, to to get the generators properly arranged in such a way where it wasn't a nuisance for us to be comfortable enough to want to work. Because it's like if you're taken back to the caveman days and you spent all of your time hunting and gathering, which is essentially um, what it was getting to. It was like if we are to run out of food, or there's so many deer on the property and chickens, and we're thinking about what it is that we are to do, and getting water bucketed and showering with buckets and doing all of that. Um, you you expend so much energy that you literally have no more energy for general cleanup. So we needed to make ourselves a bit more comfortable. And so that's sort of the plan first, getting internet going. Could we order parts, which we then learned we could not, because USPS, FedEx, and UPS, they were not delivering. So then it was like, do we rob parts from other generators that are broken, and other things from water heater? We were robbing parts from other things to try to get things going. Finally, we did that, and fast forward the tape a bit, we were able to rent an excavator and tractors from an equipment yard down the street, and we're getting our way with the road. Now the road is becoming seemingly a larger task than we had hoped for, because the landslide was so much, and other people who had landslide issues, and apparently there's now a shortage of fill dirt. So there's that.
Filter and rocks. There's
Fill dirt and rocks, and actually people to do it.
yes.
I mean, it's one thing how many people could drive a big bucket tractor, and then having dump trucks to dump it. So you're running into that issue. We are running into that issue now. So we've got that, but we are still in full stride and are ready to go for November 1st. We do need a bit of a soft open. We want to, hit the ground running. We want to get in again. We rather enjoy our work. We love it here. We love serving the people here. We love the people who we work with. Although it might not, the road might not be 100%, I will get it as near 100% as possible. We want to open up a Smithmore 2.0. We don't want to be in a situation where we are constantly having to make excuses for our lacking. I can't control what the community is around me that is open or not, because the unfortunate part about it too is when people do come to visit us, they like to patronize the businesses around us. And if they are open or not, I don't know. I know that we certainly will be, and ready to take you on with open arms, and are delighted to do so. We've got quite a bit of weddings in November and in December and so on, and quite a bit of bookings. So we are all eagerly waiting to get back on track and opening up our private home to everyone to enjoy. I don't know how many people are going to be, in that mindset, in that gear. But I think it does something psychologically if a sense of normality is placed back on everyone. It will get you in the right direction. I know there's something that the owner said that resonates with me now. And this was sort of during the midst of it all. This was one day at around 5 p.m. when it seems like the war has just been over. And I see him outside blowing leaves and moving some bit of branches. And he says, this will play psychologically on me. If I know that around the castle it's cleaned up, but everything else is a war zone, it will get everything mentally in the state of mind to be ready. And I could appreciate that. And I do appreciate all of his hard work and devotion to opening up his private house once again. Now, obviously, we are going to be relying heavily on those who have been here before for this continued business to prosper once more. Obviously, we want people to book. So just so people know, October is the busiest time, not just for us, but for all the businesses around and in this entire area. People do come here to observe the leaves, the foliage, the colors. This is wedding season, peak wedding season for us and for everyone. Everyone here makes money in October. So having that taken away from the business sector is rather disheartening. I hope that they pull out of it. Although I've been hearing through the grapevine that some will simply not reopen. So for those listening, do make it a point. For us, it would be on November 1st to reopen, to book, to at least have dinner here or book or, whatever, celebrate something. But also do not forget about the downtrodden in the members of the community who are struggling ever so to try to get their businesses back up and running. The downtown area and the surrounding area. If you like this part of the world and you do visit here and go on holiday here with your family, don't forget about us. I would say though, it does gladden me and fill me with abundance of joy to watch the community come together. It sort of reminded me of this post 9/11 where the community came together, people genuinely looking out for their neighbor. That's something that I could tell you. This does not really exist in most places, but it does so in Appalachia, and it does so in these small mountain towns. There was virtually, and I could be wrong and somebody might call me out, but I did not see crime. I did not see people breaking into people's homes, people stealing other people's belongings. I did not see any of that. I'm sure, you're going to have your occasional, but in Spruce Pine in particular, that was not a thing. Everyone was so eager to help everyone.
And let me interrupt you there because you guys, you and your team, I've heard from members of the community what a godsend you guys have been for them. So I want to personally thank you and applaud you because you're 100% right. The community there is strong. They played and they're going to continue to play a vital role in the recovery. But tip your hat because you yourself have been an inspiration to them because I hear it. I talk to them. As I mentioned, I do have close ties in that area, all in the short-term rental industry. And when I mentioned you and your team specifically, they're like, yeah, when you talk to them, tell them that we say thank you. And again, I want to applaud you because you guys have done a phenomenal job in that community.
It is one thing for us that we live our life in a certain way where there are lords and ladies and those sort of outdated titles by all intents and purposes for most Americans. But it is the way we choose to live our life in the most principled way. And we live it in such a way where that we do see ourselves at least in the way that things were done properly, that if you do need a shower, food, shelter, or any other assistance, that you can count on the castle. You can count on Lord Robert, myself, my wife, Lady Marie, for any other assistance. There were people whom we've. There's something else too that to be said that we didn't touch on that was very important. Most people don't leave cash on hand. And in these trying times, you cannot swipe your credit card. You cannot write a check. The banks were not open and credit card acceptance was non-existent. So having cash on hand was, as the old saying, cash is king. Well, that proves it correct. I can't tell you how many times that folks who needed, they found a route to get to, say, Johnson City to fill up their vehicles with petrol or needed extra petrol for their generators. They did not have cash. So, we gave people cash that needed it, actual paper money. And we're not looking to get it back by any means. But again, this is who we are. This is the way that we raise our family. This is not only being Catholic, but also being extremely traditional and conservative. We want to help you be above and beyond what the normal person would do. And again, it's sort of, we see ourselves here as a sort of a parallel to the government. It's a sort of a parallel universe and a parallel economy. If you must count on us if you cannot buy toys for your children, or if you need candy for trick-or-treating, or if you need a hot bath, or if you need cell phone chargers. You must count on Smithmore Castle for these things. And we very well do our part in that way, like a church, but even more so, like government, but even more so, because you don't have to go through the hoops with us. You come and we can look at you in the eye and man to man, and we will help you and help your family. If you need a place to live, we've got cots. If you need, again, internet and so on, we pride ourselves in that Smithmore Castle is a self-sufficient and self-reliant fiefdom. And so hopefully people listening to that could, unfortunately, if this happens again, in the unfortunate circumstance, count on the castle. I don't know how you can get up here, but if you can find your way up here, we will welcome you with open arms.
I mean, that's a great lesson. And it's funny, and I'm probably going to go down a rabbit hole here because I've been talking about this for a long time, especially here in the US. We have become so heavily dependent on the federal government that it is shameful. Back in the days, and you just touched on it originally, they never looked at government for help. They went to the church for help. If you need food, if you had, for example, orphans, any social problem was dealt by the community and, more importantly, the church. Today, that has been flipped, and now everyone, when there's an issue, we want the federal government to solve our problems. Well, like Ronald Reagan says, if the federal government calls you and they say they're here to help, run away, because they're not. But that's, let me get off that high horse there, because that for me, that's another touchy subject, because we really need to understand that it is the community and the church that in the end will always prevail, and not the federal government, because they're not equipped. They were never designed for that cause and that purpose. And I'm glad, and again, I'm going to reiterate the fact that I've heard a lot from that community, and they all have talked highly about you guys, and I'm glad you're founded with that principle of we need to take care of us. And when I say us, I mean the community. And again, thank you for that.
Pleasure.
So let me ask you a couple of more questions, because this is, I know you guys are super busy, have a lot of work to do, but give us your top 3 most important lessons that you learned through this disaster.
Well, I guess in no particular order. The number one thing that I learned, and I guess I sort of knew it, but again, this is a bit of a confirmation that most grocery stores will have food for 1, 2, or 3 days for the community. And so the importance of having your strategic survival plan in place, in order of importance to you. Now, this might change for some people, because for me, the most important thing was taking care of my mother and father, and then my newborn. I was thinking, well, if I have to, I'll do whatever. I don't have to eat for 3 days or something, intermittent fasting, whatever. But you must not rely on, no, it's not even the federal government or local government. There's only one person that you can count on, and that would be yourself. But also you must know what you're not good at. So if you are not rather handy, you need to set up your plan in such a way where it's sort of dummy proof. And for me, I had to learn based upon our weaknesses. And one of the weaknesses that we have here at the castle, we can't change it, but we've got 13 or so electrical panels throughout the estate. And so it's so difficult, and I don't have the wherewithal to set up a generator that with a flip of a switch could turn on everything. And so that's what we're working on now. For your own home or standard home, where there's one electrical panel you can go to flip off all the breakers, well, whatever, a simple Honda generator or something could get you going, but not so here. The other thing is, then how do you turn on your well water? So you have to have these mechanisms in place, that you have to be able to do on your own accord, under your own faculty, without asking anyone for help, because you can't get to them. The other thing is, as you know now, sorry, there's a fly flying about. Anyway, the thing that you must know now, having gone through it, is cell phone companies are rubbish, and you need to just have a satellite connection. So Starlink is an absolute must, and making your phone calls via Wi-Fi Starlink through the satellite is the only way. All the cell phone companies are rubbish. Sharing towers, the cost of putting them there, the cost of getting land, I don't want to hear any of that. They make plenty of money. You need to have Starlink, and you need to be able to, for the moms out there and for the young people out there, you need to be able to wire in your generator. And you need to have your different solar flashlights and things of that nature. Those are the things that's, it's water, electricity, and the communication. Obviously, food, I think most people in this area know how to hunt, fortunately. So I don't know that food was that of an issue. But again, if you've got babies and you need diapers and you need wipes and if you've got elderly that need oxygen machines, you have to have your own top three. Those are not my top three. I don't have people with oxygen tanks here and everything else. But I had my top three with my baby. And how do I wire all of this in this giant estate? I don't know it. I'm not an electrician. So now I've made it dummy proof, where it's simply, extension cord, plug in, go away, turn it on, pull the string, that sort of thing.
So in terms of the future, in terms of going forward, what are some of the things that you're going to implement? I know you just talked about trying to figure out the electrical part of it, but going forward, what's some of the things that you want to implement that will help you if this were to happen again?
Well, I thought about that, and I think I have a sort of a different approach. I think the way that if this were to ever happen again, I want to be more readily available for the community. So I know, for example, if this were to happen again, we have an issue with our driveway. The driveway will be covered with trees. How do I get the community listening, that if they want to make a call or if they need drinking water, to come up here, if they can't come up here? So we are devising a plan currently for drinking water and for Starlink. So one of the things that we are devising is one of the streams that is roughly a football field length away from the main road getting up here, because there's no sense in having people, if they just want water, to come all the way up. And you've been to the property, like you don't want them coming all the way up the drive just to get water. I need to get to them down there. So we were devising a plan of where we could solar pump a sump pump that can get drinking water up to sort of the main road if people want to come in, and we can fill up jugs for them. So that's one. Because again, a lot of our thinking is we do quite all right here, and sort of the implementation of the certain plans that could help us. I don't know how much more we could do. I'm sure somebody's going to come up with something, but I'm much more interested in if we can help I know this sounds a bit cliche, but if we can help the community get on their feet quicker. A lot of people don't understand this. It does us no good that Smithmore Castle is the only place where you can get food around here if everyone is closed. You must give people options. It does us no good that Smithmore Castle is the only hotel around here. The people need to go out, and so the faster we get the community in order, the more that people can get comfortable in this new setting and start rebuilding faster and start going about their daily life faster. So water is one. Getting Starlink there is one. So there is a telephone pole, there's an electric pole down where I'm referring to, that we've put in a call with the local energy company to get us wire down there, power down there, like an outlet. Why? Because we could then pick up our Starlink and just go take it down the drive. And then if people need to make a call or need to, do whatever they need to do, they can make their way up Gugis, and they don't need to go a mile up our driveway. We can give them their essentials down there. Furthermore, we didn't touch on this, but I do encourage people to stock up on the following: cans of tuna, Spam, flour. And if you have the means for a chicken coop, 1 or 2 chickens, do it. Spam and tuna will give you a much longer shelf life than what is stamped on the can. It's preserved in there. I know it's not, this isn't for your vegan audience.
Right.
So, whatever, lump it. But you could go and you can survive on these things. So we've got, and every time, I encourage people to do this, every time you go grocery shopping, we all do it. Buy 1 can, store it. You never know in a year or 2 how many cans you have left. But anyway, that's what we would provide for people, is those types of basic essentials straight away. I can't tell you what the difference it would have made had I had those things in place down the road, down our drive, where they didn't have to make up. Where Gugis Creek met Castle Way, which is where we are. That was the roundabout. People were making the roundabout turn there because there was a ginormous fallen tree. And they were making the turn there. So I thought, God, we what an opportunity missed. And it breaks my heart, as well as it breaks the heart of the Smithmore family, that we couldn't have those essentials down there. So we're working on that. And I could assure you that should something like this arise again, we will be more prepared to help the community.
Awesome. The last question I got for you: what most excites you about the future of Smithmore Castle?
Well, I think that we've all become built of even sterner stuff now, and the resiliency that not only those who live here permanently have found, but those that live, our staff reside in the neighboring areas. So I'm sure that they have their own struggle and have been made more stronger by it. We are most excited about, now that we've sort of learned more about ourselves, the envelope and the heights that could be reached and the envelope that can be pushed is much more further. If you thought before that Smithmore Castle was a 5-star castle hotel and only the one in the world, which is a fact, that we are going to let off on the gas pedal, you're gravely mistaken. We are going to provide the utmost service and care. We are going to strive to bring you hospitality that is unmatched anywhere in the world. Currently, we are in plans of building a farm shop, bringing in alpaca, expanding upon our spa services. And I'm talking about in the near future. I'm talking about this is our plan within 6 months to a year.
Wow.
So because we and by the way, all of the devastation and wreck and mess that we've had to deal with, all of it has come out of pocket. Insurance is not covering any of this. And it's not just for us. I do hear that insurance is not covering most of the people because, again, the rarity of where this happens. I do think that it's unfair. I do think the federal government, with all the money that they have and they splurge on the most ridiculous of things, could pump millions of dollars into this area, and tens of millions. We're sending money to foreign countries and nobody could point to it on a map. Don't get me started on that. But now that the insurance companies are turning their back, I find it to be the most disheartening of it all. We are paying for it out of pocket. So it is rather important that people do visit the castle. They do spend money here and spend money in the community, because we are building all of these things, because we want to be Smithmore 2.0. We want to bring about the farm shop, which will give you fresh eggs, honey from our apiary, wool from our alpaca for clothing. But we are also going to reach out to the farms that were devastated, that produce goat milk and so on. Bring us your stuff. Let us sell it for you. We won't make a penny on it. Put it on the shelves. and it's sort of a community farm shop, if you would. I've got a clever name for it. I don't know if I should reveal it now, but it is quite clever. And in the spa and doing spa services, remember, the Smithmore Castle employs a vast number of people, but we also, how do you say, we 1099 others. So there's independent contracting happening. Archery instructors and massage therapists. These people depend on us for employment. We treat this as a fiefdom where we employ the town, and the town then in turn has our back because they know we always have theirs. And that is something that churches do, but we want to expand upon it, as we said. And that is something that local government, I'm sorry, I don't know if they do it anymore. Everyone is looking for, everyone is campaigning all the time. They're busy, don't bother them.
Yeah, no, I mean, I am rooting for you guys. All those out there listening, I highly, highly, highly recommend you visit them, take one of their experiences. At the very least, do their dining experience, which is what I did. First of all, learning the history of the castle that we didn't have time to go get into, just learning how it became a castle. It's fascinating. But Benjamin, I greatly appreciate you. I mean, you have no idea how much I appreciate this time, this conversation. I really want to get the word out. I'm really rooting for you guys. I want you guys to come back stronger, better than you were before. I'm fully confident that you guys are going to do that. Can you give us some closing thoughts as we land this plane here?
I do want to thank you for the opportunity to come on your podcast, and you've made a follower and a sort of an admirer of your podcast and all the work that you've done of me, more so than I was when I first met you. In closing, I would say that our hearts and prayers are with the community. We are there for you. If there's anything whatsoever that the castle can do for you, and as well as staff, do not hesitate to call. We are constantly praying. I have my family in California praying, and we pray as a family all the time for those who are affected and continuously to be affected. Besides, without the prayer, we would not have a chance. All of this other stuff is man-made. It could alleviate it, but without the power of prayer, unfortunately, you need all of that. Plus, prayer is the thing that's going to get you out of this mess. Period. End of story.
Amen. Amen. All right, my beautiful people, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Again, I'm going to have all of Benjamin's information listed down below. Again, reach out to them. Try to book some time, visit the place. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.
Cheerio.
Hang on for 1 second. Let me go over this process real quick. Let me end it.